All right. So if you look at the agenda of the meeting, that the final presentation was supposed to me, but it's more not a presentation, like also an invitation for discussion. And also after my presentation, there were some block of discussions, but I propose that we combine all this together. Now I will tell you some words, what I'm thinking about the future of business trees, and also the International Business Trees Association, which I'm going to call IBTA, which is abbreviation. And then if you have some general questions, then we definitely can discuss them. Right. So I would say that probably we have something like half an hour, and then we are going to close this event. So, okay, let's go. And I move to some slides. All right. Okay, these are my slides. Very well. Okay, so if you look at business trees, first I will start with business trees itself. Whatever it is. Okay. So first of all, I see lots of attempts of people to solve business problems, but they are not aware about existence of what we call business trees. And they are using classical trees tools like the original contradiction matrix of Altshuler, with 39 parameters, to solve business problems with that matrix. Well, the trick is that you can use any matrix and you will find some solutions, because those 14 value principles, which in fact are more than 40, there are, like I said, there are about 190 of them. It's not 40. Because every sub-principle in a principle is actually another principle. If you can look at the current system of 14 value principles as a sort of convoluted system. Even in the past, there was somewhere back in 1970s with Altshuler, there was 88 principles, but then he made some sub-principles of some principles by sub-principles of the other. That's why when we speak 40 inventive principles, it's a little bit misleading. Right. So, but of course, principles are very powerful, so you can find solutions with them. But the idea of using matrix is that you increase the probability of finding the best, most relevant principles for your situation. And it also helps to fight psychological inertia. Once you have a contradiction, you identified your parameters, you look at the matrix and you see some principle which at your first glance does not fit at all, think again. Maybe it doesn't fit at all. Maybe it fits perfectly. It's just your psychological inertia, right? Doesn't make you make a right connection. That's very important. So also explaining differences between technical and business trees. Like I said, the fundamentals are the same, but what is different are details, like it is devil in details. Well, I give you a simple example. In the trees-based function analysis, when you identify the function, the function object A acts on object B. And there is always a result of the function. Object A must either change somehow this object B, change its attribute, change its parameter, or preserve this object B. So if you try to use this approach to the business trees, and for example, you have an operator in the room, and the task of the operator is to monitor some information which show up on a screen. The major mistake, once you do this classical function analysis, you say the operator observes the monitor. No. And you get disqualified from the TRIZ community because this is a wrong function. Like I said, The object A must either change something in B or prevent that B from a change. When I say the operator watches or observes the monitor, well, you understand. Nothing happens with the monitor. It's not changed and it's not preserved. But it is, so in classical function analysis, we would say monitor informs the operator, and that's it. That's the only function which is between them. But in business trees, where we do in function analysis, it looks like the operator is some sort of actually passive component, while in reality, the operator does the job. You see? So in this case, we developed a version which is called extended function analysis, where you also can include the functions where the work is performed by the active object. Well, there are some other differences, not differences, but additions, I would say. We also bring to function analysis intangible components. For instance, in a technical function analysis, you may not say that the decision is a component. No, it's not a substance. It's not physical. It's actually not even material. We can only include material components. But when we say that a function that a manager makes a decision, well, this is a perfectly great function in business trees. So you see, we can include also intangible components. We also separate differently informational components and data components. They are also different. So today we are building that. We already have that extension. We already checking how it works, and it looks like it works fine. And even I hear many times from our customers, and also for those who just uses this extended functional model, that it works really better for modeling informational or business systems, even social systems. Also, well, a question is a business trees good for social systems? Well, my answer is, well, it is better than technical trees, but not as good as it should be, because I already mentioned that technical and business systems have quite a lot in common, while social systems are different. I mentioned it yesterday. Another task for business is, of course, improving the existing tools. That's what I'm talking about, the common tools. Like we already have 40 inventive principles adopted to business trees, but I'm sure we can make more. We can make more and better. We can improve them. Creating processes and roadmaps. You remember I showed you one roadmap, how we solve a specific problem. So 6 steps and tools supporting each step. The same roadmaps exist for other processes, because when we look at innovation tasks, they are not only solving problems or cutting costs. No. For instance, inventing new products, inventing new services, improving user experience, some others. So there are about 10 typical innovation tasks which can be supported with trees, which require creative phase and which can be supported with trees and trees tools. And today we have 30 different trees tools, both for technology and for business. There are some universal tools, really universal. There are tools like, guides to physical effects. Definitely, you may not apply guides to physical effects in business trees. Absolutely not relevant. But again, we have a navigator of business models, right? Which is similar in a way to physical effects. The research tool, if you're interested, just ask me by email. I will send you the link. Also, what is always very important for evolution of such systems as trees and the like is creating the cases repository. We already have a number of cases, and I think we also can bring it as a special interest subject to IBTA and somehow manage it from IBTA to creating such repository. Also, another interesting issue is investigating new or integrated tools, because, you know, I often receive messages that, well, we can use this tool together with TRIZ, or this tool, tools which are not developed for TRIZ, right? So um, uh, there are hundreds of tools, right? Uh, Lots of tools, and definitely some of the tools can be used together with TRIZ. For example, some analytical tools which are developed totally outside of TRIZ, but might work together perfectly with some TRIZ tools. Well, I think this is interesting area. It requires exploration, so we should not neglect it. And someone who is interested, well, definitely you can communicate with us, and who knows what happens next. Maybe we will include this combination into training curricula, or use it for as a help to consultants. Why not? So this is what I wanted to say about the business trees development as I see it in the nearest future, just about the contents of business trees, and sharing about it. And now I want to switch a little bit to IBTA. As you know, IBTA is a very young organization. Even it's not an organization, it's an association, which doesn't have any budget. It's completely voluntarily engagement of motivated people at this moment. Just I will check in because there are some. mm, yes, you can also post your questions, by the way. So maybe before I move to this side, Oliver Meyer commented, Valerie, I would not care if we make a function analysis right or wrong and disqualify us this way. The goal is to solve problems, not to run a methodology in purity. If it helps to concentrate on parameters, go for it. Well, Oliver, yeah, I agree. I agree. We are practical people, and TRIZ was developed by practitioners. Well, also, it has some scientific approach. Well, not as well developed as it would be required by modern academic requirements. Definitely not. So if you want to add something, Oliver, please do. We are in a free mode.
I'm just looking, the goal is to solve a problem. And whatever helps to do this and to bring us to ideas is welcome for me in TRIZ. Although TRIZ is a good basis, but as you allow there bits and pieces to change, that's my practical view on that. So for that perspective, I think you're doing a great job in that one.
Thank you, Oliver.
Against some people who are very, very stubborn on that it should be very right. So I support you.
Like I said, that my last in 2014 I joined MATRIZ, the International TRIZ Association, you know, and I'm vice president of MATRIZ. And also people look at me and ask with great degree of curiosity, Valerie, why did you start at IBTA? Why didn't you use MATRIZ and the resources of MATRIZ? I think, Oliver, I should not answer you. You understand why. Yeah, MATRIZ.
I'm trying to bring in also, you know, we have software which is not allowed as a component. It does not make sense anymore today. We have to find ways on how to bring in software because of the big influence. So I take it as a field, but no, it's not a field. It's not a resource. I think we just have to look practically. And I love with this conference that we get case studies where it's shown how it can work. And then by this, you can say, hey, that works for me, that works here. As I said, my goal is to solve problems, however I come there. Thank you.
Sure. All right. The question is from listen one or comment. Business trees or non-technical trees, which is better? Besides businesses, there are many other fields, such as information, law, tourism, finance. Well, you know what Altshuler said for it? Altshuler said that each new area of human activities which engage creativity requires its own study. For example, Altshuler believed that if you consider, for instance, arts, they have their own lines of evolution. Arts have their own, let's say, 40 principles. That was the vision of Altshuler. So, but I see today that there are also different activities which are really close to each other, and technical systems and business systems by their level of organization, architecture, and system behavior, not internal, but external behavior. Internal also really much. They are really close. That's why it was easier to move from, let's say, a TRIZ in business to TRIZ, from TRIZ in technology, but TRIZ is business. However, when you speak about a law or a sport, for example, might not sure be that. Of course, there will be a large overlap, but I'm not sure that, for instance, trends of evolution will be very similar. Maybe, but it requires investigation. So that's just the areas which have to be explored further in. So we have to find which fundamental principles and fundamental laws and patterns and evolution lines undermine these other areas. Someone has to do this research. We already showed it with TRIZ for technology, and now we are showing with TRIZ for business that it works. We just need people. All right, Richard. I suggest some classical business trees, best practice in order to improve the understanding and stay focused on the potential of business trees. We could refer back to the evolution technical trees, the product development, process system, moral system. Yeah. Again, we just need resources.
I would like to comment it too. Like you, I mean, you touched upon that. I think, again, I think we need a handful good example or some best practice guidelines in order to guide us in that business trees, in order
Yes.
to make the, like you said, at least because I mean, even I mean, you've been teaching us so much in the technical trees, and you have your favorite examples of that development that are referring to product development, process schemes, and so on. So I think there is a little bit of need to have that guidance. You can fall back to, let's say, 5 or 10 very unique business trees examples, so you can see how you follow. And then also, in order to avoid, for example, these functional analysis dips or mistakes that you do, because here there is a difference in the business trees compared to the technical trees. Here you have another difference and so on, because we have a little bit of path in that way how to deal with the technical trees. However, we're not so maybe so familiar with working with the business trees, so we make those mistakes along the way and got a little bit sidetracked.
Yeah, I would say that actually this problem addresses just half of people, those people who know technical trees. When I now train or teach business trees, usually people who join my workshops or my training courses, they only maybe heard the word trees, but they have no idea what's inside. So when they come to learn business trees, they're very happy. But when people already have a knowledge background with technical trees, oh, then I have a problem.
Okay. So
right.
It's making your head.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yan Lin also makes a command journal for business trees only. Exactly, that's what we are thinking about. Absolutely. David Isaac. Okay. Hello, David. Fully agree with Oliver and Valerie. Well, David, we are expecting you will be joining us in our business trees activities, because David is, by the way, here is the most certified trees person, I guess, in the whole event. David has many certificates on trees. Okay, Anton, trees for artificial social systems, perhaps, but a huge part of them is business system, at least. Well, if I look at for instance, such a social system as a prison, I don't think it's really, well, maybe, but you understand what I mean. Or a kindergarten, right? Or a society, or a club, or a pub, or even bar. There are plenty of different social systems. And some of them really operate very close to business systems. If software algorithms, organizational issues, and cultural issues missing for me, yes, we have a big problem with TRIZ for software. This started already 25 years ago. There were lots of attempts, even several thick books published, but it's not there at all. Well, the common reason which I explain is very simple, is that TRIZ is not for software. Because what is software? You get a technical requirements and you have to write a code. And 99% of software development is writing a code. When you write a code, you don't have creative problems. You don't have innovative problems. You just write the code. But there is 1% left when we are talking about technical requirements, when we are talking about things that what we call software architectures, integration of software with hardware, etc. So TRIZ resides at that level, not on a coding, but on the level of a little bit higher. That's where TRIZ for software could be good, but not as a level of coding. You don't have inventive tasks there. You see?
But I did some exercises, Valerie, to try to codify the softwares.
Yeah.
Because I had a software company myself, and it was not impossible to do it, but it's not. So I used the parameter models to try to model what are the aspects of the programming that we need to do, and it was not impossible. So it was feasible. But to add to the list, I'm missing planning systems.
Oh yeah.
How do you plan an organization?
Right.
What to do, when, where, next? Which is mostly a production, seems like a production, but everybody has issues with planning. And and besides that, I think we need to look at the sociological and the psychological, which are two different domains for me. Also, those domains are very important to expand and try to come up with trends or with some principles, because we know there are some principles in psychological looking at people, and there are some principles in sociological looking at a group of people. We know there are some patterns in that. So I'm actually missing those patterns. Which are they? How can we use them? And I remember Yuri Salamatov very long ago, I think it was 2005 or something. They was presenting a paper on psychological impacts of people. So I don't know if you were aware of that or if you remember that.
Well, in our group here, we have Anton Kazumaka, who is an advisory board of IBTA, who wrote a whole book on psychological effects.
Yeah,
Anton, could you tell us something about it? Anton, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. This book is this book is written in Russian now.
Yeah, but
yes, but I think I can translate it. Why not?
Maybe there will actually today we have a great tool which is called DeepL, which
Yes,
can
I collected over than 100 psychological effects.
Okay, if you have a Word file, please give it to me. And yeah, this book includes 100 psychological effects for business, so that's already there. But now, if you know our problem are people, right? With TRIZ, I would say that every year I understand how much more Altshuler actually took from the ground when developing TRIZ. And you learn TRIZ every year. It never stops because it's like an onion. You have ring by ring by ring. You think you cleaned it? No, there is one more in. You clean it again, clean it again, and clean it again. So there's well, actually, the Altshuler revolution made by Altshuler, that he brought creativity to systematic level. And this is huge because creativity is everywhere in every part of human activity. So which means that we can apply the same systematic approach to everywhere almost to improve things and to make them systematic. Yeah. Okay. David, question.
Valeri?
Yeah.
Can I still comment on
Sure.
what you said on software?
Yes.
Because I a little bit disagree. I agree with you when you have control over software. When you can say, I write a code and that's it, fine. But often you're coming into the situation that you have to use software where you have not the possibility to change the code for whatever reason. And in these cases, I would still take software as a part for it, where I could also think about combining it with other parts or whatever, so to use it there as an element or as a field that is there. Agree, if I have full control, I can change the code and they have influence, then I don't need to care about it. But if I have not, which often happens, then I would need to treat parts of these or these systems and bring them together. Let's take, if you're using a Microsoft Office package, you cannot change the code in Word and Excel. Sometimes you have to bring things together that influences. So there it might make sense. That's the only thing what I would like to comment.
Absolutely correct. What I meant that what is coded? When inventive problem emerges and we need to apply creativity and go out of the box, in a situation when you want to improve something and you can't. That's exactly what you said. You want to improve interaction with Microsoft Office, or you want to change something in Microsoft Office and you can't do it. You're blocked. Yep. Right. So, but when I'm writing a code, I myself programmed in 12 languages. If everything is open and free, I remember at that time, it was long ago, the only limit was amount of memory in a computer. Yeah. Today, we don't have that limitation, simply go and code. But whenever you face these blocks and you cannot overcome that, you're facing an inventive situation. Perfect. Then we need TRIZ. And anywhere you're dealing with software, hardware, it would work, definitely.
Okay,
but,
fine.
But unfortunately, this is a huge area, but we have almost no resources within the TRIZ community which would work on that. Everybody tries to do something on the software, but I want to show you a very good example of using TRIZ. Yes, you see, that's the Samsung 10 Note. Do you know that the interface, right? This was developed with TRIZ.
Yeah.
Yes. If you know, Oliver. Yeah. So guys at Samsung use TRIZ to overcome conflicts which they created by designing that interface.
They have 9 TRIZ masters over there in that company, right? So
yes, exactly. Right. Let's have a look at the other messages. David asked question. Any specific area for application of value conflict mapping in business areas like banking, software development? Well, value conflict mapping, maybe I just decoded for the others who don't know what is it. You can check value conflict mapping. You will find my paper on it. This is a tool which is developed. The idea first came to me from quality function deployment. Yeah, QFD, as you know, the house of quality, otherwise it's as it's called. So basically what it does, you first identify the current market needs and you establish requirements for your system. Again, I mean system. Or it might be a process. It doesn't matter, system or a process, but system goes better because, well, its process also works fine. A little bit more complicated. And how your system is going to be in 10 years, let's say from now. All your dreams you put in the list. And then you simply compare your dream requirement or dream or wish with a current situation, what you have in your system. You find an element or object which is responsible for meeting that demand. For example, if I say a demand, today we were talking about a supermarket, and the amount of check there is a long time to check out. And definitely you would put a demand, the checkout time is 0. That's my demand that I want in my supermarket, right? Then I ask, okay, which objects of my supermarket and system and a super system are engaged into that demand? And I would say definitely the number of the checkout points, the number of cashiers, a number of people, I mean the shoppers, maybe something else, but these 3 at least. Then I based on this, for each object, I identify attribute which is engaged to this demand. I need to have many checkout points. I need to have many cashiers. And I want to have little shoppers. In this case, the checkout process will go very fast. So why can't I achieve this tomorrow or even tonight? Yeah, because I have a contradiction. I cannot have many checkout points because my storage room or a space of my supermarket is small. Second, I cannot have many cashiers because I will pay a lot of money as their salaries. So, and then the result of value conflict mapping is a big tree with every object in your system, or almost every object, and all contradictions which block us from obtaining our dream. And then this is a perfect strategic tool to deal with well, any system, and you can establish the strategy of improvement. How you which goals, which demands are most critical, which demands want to be implemented in a short term, and so on. So it's a strategy tool. Where it can be applied, absolutely anywhere, absolutely anywhere. So whenever you want. We tried to apply it. First, of course, it was developed for technologies and it was for a bicycle plant. We applied it to the bicycle plant first. Then we had a big project with supermarkets, and we had with the banks, and we had with the processes. So I think you can use it everywhere where systems are involved. Okay, sorry, that was a little bit too big because I wanted to explain what is value conflict mapping. A question from Binhan. Maybe we can plan the series of activities of IBTA at least this year. Yes, we will. From David Agay, mentored by Valerie all the way, is all what that I have learned. Thanks. From Binhan. Also, can we determine some details for the next Business TRIZ conference? Let us put it into our agenda. I don't think we maybe could do it right here today, but maybe we can discuss it with IBTA board meeting after we finalize this conference and we make a summary. Okay. Hans Hertgrabe. In software, data analysts get more and more important. Is this an issue for Business TRIZ? Good question. Hans had probably knows that there is such a profession in business, which is called business analyst. And the primary goal of business analyst to model business, to create, primarily what they do today, they describe all the business processes within an organization, a business organization, and map them into the process models. They use different modeling frameworks like IDF 0, IDF 2, IDF 5. They use BPMN. They use, I don't know, maybe there are 40 or 50 different business models. So that's that's it. So I don't know if you're familiar. It's a whole profession. It's called business analyst. But well, actually, why is they important? Because businesses get automated, right? So automate any business, you need to build a process model. That's what business analysts do. Business analysts, data analysts, business analysts, we might have a profession of TRIZ analyst. Why not? Yeah, maybe in the future. Because you see, what is my experience of at least 15 years with Business TRIZ shows that, for instance, take such a tool as RC Plus or cause and effect chain analysis, which is RC Plus is just a further advancement of cause and effect analysis. Actually, in Business TRIZ, approximately 70% of problems which involve contradictions are solved once you complete the RC Plus diagram. 70%. In technology and engineering, my experience is maybe 2, 3, 5%, not more. You see the huge difference. Okay. Ralph Louis, asked Anton the title of the book. Well, from Richard, seriously, I know there are some foundations like European Union that welcome in cross-international project proposals to execute and address generic problems. Well, there are just few projects which were supported by EU. I participated in, I think I mentioned you already, participated in several proposals. But the only couple were supported was a project with Politecnico Milano, where they have a consortium of about 14 organizations to develop there are two projects. One project was about 10 years ago, creating a platform for forecasting on the basis of TRIZ, and another was approximately 2 million euros budget, and another approach was, first one was TRIZ for children.
Because I would comment that, I mean, there is a lot of not research foundation or research academic. There's rather a lot coming up in application and where it's actually needed to have a support from industrial partners in order to go ahead with the project. Most of the time it turned out to be 50% split between the EU foundation and the private sector, so to say, in order to go ahead with the project overall. So this kind of executable or this more implemented approach with generic problems, that's what will be requested in the near future.
Actually, Richard, that's quite interesting point, because until now, I personally was only looking at technology and engineering projects, and never actually looked at the business side. I don't know how much European Union supports that part, but that's a new question. We put it on our agenda to explore. Thank you.
It was one idea from my side. Yeah.
Right. Okay, Anton posted the reference to his Russian book on psychological effects on management and marketing. You can see it in the chat.
One question, is there a possibility to get it translated via DeepL? But this would need a doc version or something like that.
Well, Anton?
Now I'm working with translating with another book about business trees.
But well, actually, in our small community, if you trust us, if you have a computer version of that book, we could simply go it through DeepL. I have a license.
I have a license as well. What I could also do is give you access that you can do the translation, that you have it under control.
Very interesting. Thank you.
All right. Well, let us.
Then you can leave it as PDF or whatever.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, it could be a good beta version at least to be shared, and then a little bit comment about back, because I mean we know from experience that doing the translation from Russian to English, there is always a little bit lost in translation too. So in order to avoid these ditches, we can maybe help you out with that.
But Richard, you know, recently I translated a 20-page Russian document through DeepL, and actually I had to only made 3 or 4 corrections.
It's
amazing
in that sense. It's not a real translation. It's more like the meaning behind the translation that we know. I mean, we come across that before with battling with what actually TRIZ for technical was the meaning behind it when you transform it into English.
Yeah.
What is the excuse? I mean, we have plenty of this example. Sorry.
Yeah, very good, very good. There is another question from Maximilian. Hello, Maximilian. Nice to see you here. Generally speaking, is business TRIZ more process-oriented than technical TRIZ? And technical TRIZ is more object-oriented than business TRIZ? Or is it unjustified oversimplification? No, it's not oversimplification. Traditionally, if you look at technology and engineering, it used to create physical objects, right? So the product orientation or system orientation is very clear. If you look at the business, like I mentioned yesterday, it has two parts. Once it's a business system itself, right? So, and this business system can create a value proposition for the market, which is in two ways, hard and soft. So hard is like producing physical objects, and soft is in form of processes or services, right? So like insurance process, like medical treatment, etc., etc. So all those are processes. And in the past, actually, products and processes were quite split from each other. Today, this is always we are talking about the product-service combination. Traditionally, of course, technical trees was very little engaged into processes. Also, every process is supported by some system. If you look at the books by Gerhard Schuler, by Boris Lotin, by others on trees, which were published in like 70s, 80s, you will see lots of examples which are coming from manufacturing. Yeah, even 80% almost of all the problems were coming from manufacturing, which are presented to these books. So they were fixing the manufacturing processes, but they were fixing the systems around this process primarily. When we are talking about business, you see that the company itself is an organization, it's a system. So in fact, and system is object-oriented, has object-oriented architecture. We can improve our business in two ways. We can improve the system itself, and we can improve the processes which are going inside the system. So I would say that also technical trees is more object-oriented, no doubt. That business trees has to be considered at two dimensions, right? I won't see that there is at this moment a preference to any of these directions, right? Because my experience is working with both, with systems and with processes, almost on par. So just equal, almost equal by now. Oliver?
Explanation so much. It's really interesting, and coming from my area, when I ever was interested more in the processes,
yeah,
for some time, this conference looked a little bit more familiar for me. In fact, I wasn't ever so much interested in business processes, but the approach that was presented looks very interesting from my point of view. So thank you so much for the explanation, and that would be a great conclusion for me personal from this conference.
And Maximilian, of course, we wait for more papers from you. Maybe you could also write something or explore something for business trees from the process point of view. Okay.
I would definitely think about it and probably as well in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maximilian. Oliver, thank you very much for joining us, and see you next time, definitely.
Yeah. And I can then also report on some stuff I have done in this area.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Perfect.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Okay, from Siegfried. Can we do a follow-up session after some digesting time, say in 2-3 months? There was a lot of useful information, but for a TRIZ newbie, way too much. I'm sure there will be more questions after having reread the presentations, and you will also have the videos. What do you think? Does anyone else have the same thoughts? No, I definitely have. We'll put it into the here conference follow-up. Uh, 2-3 months. Why not? Especially today, you know, with all this online thing, we don't need to travel. Just come up for a couple of hours and have this follow-up. But before, we have to prepare it, definitely. Yeah. So, Siegfried, thank you. It's a good idea. Right. Do we have any more questions? I do not think at this moment. No. So let me. Oh yeah. it would be easier when people send in their questions in advance. You know what I will do? We'll post you a sort of questionnaire, right, to every participant. And of course, we will be very, I can say we'll be very happy that if the participants can provide their feedback. And we have to think about the questions that we will put to this feedback form. That will definitely help us to have this follow-up and summary. All right. Okay. Next, well, the final slide for the development of IBTA. Well, the question is attracting new members. And well, also I would add here as educated members. Second, we need to establish some sort of communication platform between the members. Let us think about it, how we can do it. Yesterday, we had some ideas about creating sort of special interest groups on TRIZ and Agile and pedagogics and gamification of business trees, perhaps. Well, if you think about gamification of business trees, think about the potential market. A potential market is every company in the world. Every company in the world. Think about it. Next, we have to organize a series of thematic workshops and conferences. At least we have this conference twice a year, one in English, another in Russian. Perhaps we can bring them together and organize. Today, it's not difficult to organize translation. But also, in the meantime, we can have some thematic workshops. Maybe some tutorials could be organized here within the IBTA. Not real trainings, but tutorials on special tools, for example. We are looking at certification of accreditation, where we already have in the world some people who train business trees. We are trying to create a certain standard here, right? Because we have so much confusion and misleading about trees today, even technical. And if we go on with the business trees, we create a total mess. That's why we want to create some sort of a standard curricula. That's what we are doing now. Like already Professor Lin mentioned, we need probably a sort of a journal, or we can start with a newsletter. Definitely we have to discuss it. And that's what I already discussed. Next IBT points and conference follow-up within 2-3 months. Right. There are some, okay. Bye-bye. Anton, there are some questions according to aims from Valeri presentation to prospective meeting, isn't it? Maybe, did I miss something? Some questions?
About prospective questions before our prospective meetings after this conference.
You mean follow-up meetings?
Yes, follow-up meetings.
There are some questions. Yeah, what sort of questions? Anton? What sort of questions do you mean? Maybe I'm missing something.
About question, I would be easier when people send in their questions in advance.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely. But that's why I'm going to have the form. Every participant will receive a form, feedback form. We just need to think what we will include to this form. Yeah. David, each of us could promote IBTA in our LinkedIn groups. Sure, David, we should do that. Absolutely. All right. Just a second. I think I lost. I have 2 different chats, so chat windows. That's why. Okay. I'm sorry. There were some also personal messages to me, but I wasn't able to answer the personal ones because I'm engaged in the public discussion. I will have a look at them later on and we'll communicate with you, with those who ask the questions. There was a next event, also idea. I wouldn't say that I'm ready right now to say exactly when it's going to be. We have a plenty of general TRIZ conferences in September. You know, every week we have a TRIZ conference. First week we have a TRIZ summit. On the second week, then third week we have a TRIZ Matriz conference, TRIZ Fest, and then the next week we have ITRIA conference, TRIZ Future. So definitely not September. So I might think about October, November, and we might have separately. We will definitely have some Russian language events separately, and I think we can have also somewhere in November, we can have another English event. With this format, we can have it twice a year. Why not? Right. But let us think about this. With an advisory board, we will decide. And everybody who was in this conference, your email address stays with us. So if you don't mind, I hope not, we will update you with any news on the next event and also on the follow-ups on this event. Okay, so Evgeny, the question, Valerie, and we also talk about using TRIZ with business analysis tools. Yes, because there are plenty of business analysis tools already developed, and we are talking how we can actually, is there any useful tools that could be combined with TRIZ into the integrated frameworks or practices. Bin Han question, how we can hold the conference in Chinese? Well, I would be very happy, and the only problem is that my Chinese is, I'm afraid, very poor. But if the translation is organized, then we can definitely do it. Okay. All right. So the last question I would love to, last slide I would love to show is the materials of this event. First of all, next week, every participant, registered participant, will obtain access to presentations, PDFs, and also, hopefully, today it's all fast, you will have obtained 2 videos also next week. So those who missed or some parts or conference will, but registered will also have the access. And then in about 2 months, we will put access to videos for public. But if I'm talking to speakers now, if you do not wish your presentations to be shown to general public, please inform me. Well, there might be some questions. It's up to you. Okay. Richard, thank you very much. I think that we are closing also right now because the questions are already there and have been answered, and many topics were covered, but we are definitely in the very beginning. And if you speak about S-curve, so speaking about business trees, we already have lots of tools. We already have a lot of matter in our box, but with the distribution and promotion, let's say with a market, going to the market, we are in a very, very beginning of S-curve at this moment. All right, gentlemen, ladies, once again, I want to thank you very much for investing your time into these 2 days and for your great contributions, especially to speakers. And I hope we also made some attempts to know each other, and we put some ground for future development and future events. So you already know what is going to happen next, and you will get feedback form, and you will be invited to follow up session, sort of webinar in 2-3 months from now. Well, I don't think that we need to wait long. I think maybe 2 months will be fine. All right. Once again, thank you all, and great result. Have a great results with application of TRIZ or business TRIZ or just innovation. And I wish you great weekend. We stay in touch.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Valerie. Thank you very much, and good night.
Bye.